grossing Tom Cruise movies, with Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning Part 1 making a respectable showing at the worldwide box office. Tom Cruise has reasserted himself as one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood today. The new spy thriller joins the many other massive hits in Cruise's celebrated acting career. The Final Reckoning temporarily brings an iconic action franchise to a close, attracting legions of fans to the movie theater to bid farewell to Ethan Hunt, although it's too soon to call it Mission Impossible's final movie. Thanks to popular hits like the Top Gun movies and well-regarded franchises like Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise knows how to turn a film into a financial success. According to Box Office Mojo, several of his films have been particularly successful, earning incredible profits at the worldwide box office. Cruise is the definition of a successful poster boy, and his star power hasn't worn off. Updated on June 12, 2025, by Arthur Goyes. This list was updated to include other profitable Tom Cruise movies, including the recently released The Final Reckoning, and to reflect CBR's current publication standards. Days of Thunder has memorable racing sequences. Box office, $157 million. Days of Thunder is a clear attempt to recreate the success of Top Gun in a slightly different formula. Director Tony Scott and Tom Cruise reunite and replace the dangers of aerial combat with the thrill of the racetrack. In the film, Cruise is Cole Trickle, a young USAC racer who develops a rivalry with veteran racer Harry Hawk. Days of Thunder has all the best attributes of an unforgettable sports blockbuster. It boasts a great score, composed by none other than Hans Zimmer, and features iconic racing sequences with intense build-up, relying heavily on Cruise's star power at its peak. Days of Thunder followed Top Gun's steps and achieved decent success, but unlike the former, it didn't garner a cult following. Jack Reacher: Never Go Back didn't live up to its predecessor. Box office, $159 million. Released 4 years after the first Jack Reacher, the sequel, Never Go Back, secretly held a promise in its title. Entering disappointing territory, the sequel's box office numbers weren't a disaster, but they weren't enough to secure the franchise's future. In the movie, Reacher must spring back into action when his friend, Major Susan Turner, is framed for espionage, triggering a dangerous government conspiracy. Jack Reacher: Never Go Back sees Cruise going beast mode again, outplaying every agent who crosses his path. However, Cruise eventually passed the baton to Alan Ritchson, who plays the titular character in the Reacher TV series. The TV format is better suited to the story and its characters. Released in 2022, Reacher is heading to its 4th season, though it's debatable whether Cruise or Ritchson played the better Reacher. Tropic Thunder features Tom Cruise's most hilarious performance. Box office, $191 million. Tropic Thunder continues to stand the test of time, even though some of its more scandalous bits strike modern audiences as downright offensive. In the film, reality and fiction intersect on the set of a war movie. As the budget spirals out of control, the studio threatens to shelve the project, leaving the actors to their own devices in the jungles of Southeast Asia, where they find themselves embroiled in a real war. Tom Cruise is an absolute scene stealer despite his short screen time. He plays Les Grossman, Tropic Thunder's balding and foul-mouthed studio head. It's a fun, over-the-top role that sees Cruise shouting madly at everyone around him. Tropic Thunder's late summer release window gave it a significant advantage. The movie quickly climbed to the top of the American box office despite substantial competition from The Dark Knight. Vanilla Sky takes a plunge into the surreal. Box office, $202 million. Few movies in Cruise's canon are as out there as Vanilla Sky, a psychological sci-fi story based on the 1997 Spanish-language movie Open Your Eyes. The actor plays a wealthy playboy disfigured in an accident, who slowly returns to mental and physical health after a long healing process. As his journey continues, events suggest that the reality he is experiencing may not be the true one. The film adopts the structure of a mystery, wrapped in the circumstances of Cruise's character after the car crash, and revealing itself slowly over time. It performed reasonably well at the box office, but was met with mixed reviews. It can be a challenge working through Vanilla Sky's twists, and the ending doesn't work for everyone, but it merits attention for sheer novelty value and for its earnest efforts to do something different. Valkyrie dramatizes a cunning plot to kill Hitler. Box office, $203 million. July 20th, 1944, is remembered as an important date in history, as it marked the day when a cunning plot to kill Hitler went sideways. Valkyrie is the dramatization of this day and the events leading up to it. Tom Cruise is Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg in the movie, a Nazi officer who becomes disillusioned with Hitler's ideals and the future of his country after being injured in war. Valkyrie is a thrilling conspiracy movie that keeps viewers on the edge of their seats, even though the audience knows the plan will ultimately fail. It doesn't entirely succeed in portraying the selfishness of the people involved, hoping the viewers will perceive the plotters as at least slightly heroic. Cruise, however, does a great job portraying a man whose hopes for the future get shattered. Someone who's pushed into an all-in-or-nothing conspiracy. Valkyrie ended up making quite a splash at the box office for a war movie, thanks to its fast-paced narrative structure. Jack Reacher delivered the first adaptation of the character. Box office, $217 million. Jack Reacher is the creation of novelist Lee Child, who has written well over 24 books chronicling the character's adventures. He's essentially a wandering do-gooder, a former military policeman with an impressive intellect and an array of combat skills who lives off the grid. He wanders from place to place, being paid in cash and using inconspicuous means of travel such as buses. It gives him both a unique perspective and a singular way of taking on criminals. Collateral finds Cruise playing a hitman. Box office, $217 million. Heroes will always be Cruise's bread and butter, thanks to the Mission Impossible movies and similar efforts like Top Gun. His less frequent forays into villainy, however, tend to produce some of his most interesting performances, as his boyish charm turns dark and a movie star's confidence gives way to manipulation. Most such characters in his canon are merely flawed or creepy, but his hitman Vincent from Michael Mann's thriller Collateral may be the most thoroughly evil. The film takes place over the course of a single night, as Vincent commandeers Jamie Foxx's cabbie to drive him around Los Angeles committing a series of assassinations. Things veer off course when the reluctant driver takes things into his own hands, but Cruise's detached, clinical killer always seems to be one step ahead of him. Besides another strong performance from Cruise, it's also one of the best films in Mann's canon. Interview with the Vampire is a classic adaptation. Box office, $223 million. Cruise was largely known as a leading man when he was cast as the vampire Lestat in the 1994 film adaptation of Anne Rice's classic novel Interview with the Vampire. It caused quite a controversy at the time, particularly when Rice herself opined that the casting choice was a dreadful mistake. She reversed course when she saw the film, and time has shown it for one of the strongest performances in Cruise's career. As Lestat, he's presumptuous, entitled, and almost effortlessly manipulative, but also supremely compelling. A Few Good Men is a star-studded courtroom drama. Box office, $236 million. Cruise is just one of the A-list cast members in Rob Reiner's A Few Good Men, a military courtroom drama based on a stage play by Aaron Sorkin. Jack Nicholson earned an Oscar nomination for his performances as a decorated colonel suspected of interference in a murder investigation involving 2 troops on his base. Kevin Bacon co-stars as the prosecuting attorney, with Cruise's hustling lawyers serving as defense for the 2 accused soldiers. Demi Moore, Kevin Pollak, and Kiefer Sutherland round out the cast, all giving career-best performances. The drama works extremely well, combining sharp dialogue with a superb example of a courtroom thriller. Beneath lies an interesting legal dilemma about obeying immoral orders that A Few Good Men explores with tactfulness and respect. It's the kind of film that Hollywood excels at while proving that Cruise works just as well as an ensemble player as he does a leading man. Night and Day is Tom Cruise's own Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Box office, $258 million. Back in 2005, Mr. and Mrs. Smith put 2 unbeatable A-list actors and squeezed their on-screen sex appeal for a high dose of adrenaline. That would be Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. 5 years later, Night and Day tried to recreate this formula with another star on-screen couple that wasn't exactly in their primes, but still had the potential to entice viewers to the theaters. In the film, Cameron Diaz gets swept up into a violent mess when she falls for a spy, played by Cruise, fighting for his life as he tries to clear his name. Night and Day is configured as a flop, making only $258 million of a $117 million budget, but showed both Cruise and Diaz were still in the game. While the film's comical tone didn't match the action-packed rhythm, the on-screen chemistry between the 2 leads prevented a complete disaster. Diaz would go on to quit acting shortly after, but for Cruise, it was the beginning of a new prime in his career. The Firm is an anxiety-inducing conspiracy drama. Box office, $270 million. Although Cruise is most commonly known as the face of the action genre, he embarked on many thought-provoking dramas throughout the 90s. One of them was The Firm, which follows Mitch, a promising young lawyer won over by the money and power offered by a mysterious firm. When he learns of the company's dark secrets, he must fight a silent battle against them in order to survive. Despite its serious, gloomy tone and 140-minute runtime, The Firm was a critical and commercial hit and a top-grossing Tom Cruise movie. It established Cruise as an actor who could easily move between blockbusters and prestige genre films. In addition, the movie counted on other great stars of their time, such as Holly Hunter, Gene Hackman, and Wilford Brimley. Tom Cruise is magnetic in Jerry Maguire. Box office, $273 million. Jerry Maguire is a movie that orbits entirely around Tom Cruise's star power. No wonder it's named after his character. The character-driven story delves deep into the life that Jerry Maguire once knew and the new life he envisions for himself. He is a sports agent awakened by a new moral compass, leaving his agency with the only athlete who supports him to start a new enterprise. Jerry Maguire looks for the sentimental spots that define its characters and searches for humanity in places devoid of human emotion. The idea fits America's money-obsessed society, and the film uses the context of sports business as an effective setting. Jerry Maguire went on to become a critic's darling, earning 6 Oscar nominations, one of which was directed at Cruise's exceptional lead performance. Oblivion is an underrated sci-fi adventure. Box office, $287 million. 11 years after Steven Spielberg's Minority Report, Cruise returned to the sci-fi genre with Oblivion. The film marked his first collaboration with Top Gun, Maverick director Joseph Kosinski, and followed Cruise as Jack Harper, a lone drone repairman stationed on Earth, now a planet reduced to debris from an extraterrestrial war. His uneventful routine is plagued by dreams of a woman, Julia, whom he suddenly encounters on a mission. This Vertigo-like narrative took advantage of a dystopian sci-fi setting to innovate, yet it was met with mixed reactions from both the critics and the public audience. The box office results were meager for a blockbuster, but satisfying for an original sci-fi epic, with the international box office making up for the weak domestic gross. Today, Oblivion joins movies like Duncan Jones' Moon and Cloud Atlas as underrated sci-fi adventures that turned out to be ahead of their time, receiving the love it failed to acquire 1 decade ago. Austin Powers and Goldmember is a brilliant self-parody. Box office, $296 million. The Austin Powers Power franchise might not be exactly the first thing that comes to mind when the subject is Tom Cruise, but the actor makes a memorable cameo in Austin Powers and Goldmember, surprisingly one of Cruise's highest-grossing movies. The film, which follows Austin Powers traveling back in time to save his father and beat Dr. Evil once again, opens with a self-parody section of a movie within a movie, Austinpacy, featuring Cruise playing Austin Powers. Austin Powers and Goldmember is the 3rd movie in a franchise known for its self-deprecating humor and satirical tone, making $296 million of a $63 million budget. The Tom Cruise cameo sets up the absurd tone of the movie, which proved to be as successful as its previous installments. Unfortunately, even though Austin Powers and Goldmember was a hit, Austin Powers is far from having a concrete plan, especially following the loss of Vern Troyer, who played Mini-Me. Top Gun is an 80s classic. Box office, $357 million. Top Gun stars Cruise as Lieutenant Pete Maverick Mitchell, a Navy pilot who trains at the United States Navy's fighter weapons school. As Maverick competes to be top in the class, usually competing against Iceman Val Kilmer, he strikes up a relationship with one of his instructors, Charlie Blackwood, Kelly McGillis. Top Gun is one of Cruise's most iconic roles in his filmography and continued the impressive run that he had in the 1980s. It also had a re-release in 2021 in anticipation of Top Gun Maverick. The film ended up being a hit and won an Academy Award for Best Original Song. In the film, Cruise uttered one of the most famous lines in movie history: "I feel the need for speed." Minority Report takes advantage of a unique concept. Box office, $358 million. In Minority Report, Cruise plays pre-crime chief John Anderton in a future world where police can stop crimes before they take place. Anderton is then framed for murder and must go on the run to prove his innocence with the help of a precog, Agatha Samantha Morton. Mixing dystopian sci-fi with neo-noir conventions, the film delivers plenty of twists in a narrative that is all about the predictable future. Directed by Steven Spielberg, the film grossed $358.3 million on a $102 million budget, which provided Cruise with another hit on his hands. While the film was successful and left audiences wanting more, no sequel ever came to be. A television series based on the film was released in 2015 with no involvement from Cruise and was canceled after just 10 episodes. Edge of Tomorrow brings the time loop trope to the action genre. Box office, $367 million. Edge of Tomorrow follows Major William Cage, Cruise, a soldier who relives the same day over and over again while fighting aliens who have invaded Earth. As Cage relives each day, his skills get better and better as he looks for a way to defeat the invaders. The movie offers a refreshing take on the time loop trope, previously explored in movies such as Groundhog Day and Source Code. The film grossed an impressive $370.5 million worldwide, but had a hefty budget of $178 million, which hurt its returns. A sequel has languished in development hell ever since, but Cruise recently signed an overall deal with Warner Brothers to develop franchise films, and it is rumored that a sequel to Edge of Tomorrow could be one of those films. Mission Impossible 3 is the lowest-grossing movie in the franchise. Box office, $399 million. Mission Impossible 3 continued the adventures of Agent Ethan Hunt, Cruise's signature role. Hunt must return to duty after retiring from IMF fieldwork and goes up against a sadistic arms dealer in Owen Davian, Philip Seymour Hoffman. The film introduced fan-favorite characters such as Simon Pegg's Benji and Michelle Monaghan's Julia. Mission Impossible 3 currently stands as the lowest-grossing film in the Mission Impossible series, only grossing $398.4 million at the box office. Despite this, it was still considered a great summer blockbuster movie that only proved that Cruise had a box office star quality to get viewers into seats at movie theaters. The Mummy fails as a remake. Box office, $409 million. He Mummy is a disappointing action movie remake based on the Brendan Fraser franchise of the same name and the Boris Karloff movie from the golden age of Universal monsters. Starring Tom Cruise as a grave robber who accidentally awakens an ancient spirit, The Mummy was intended to kick off an entire cinematic universe revolving around Universal Studios' monster characters. Although The Mummy is among Tom Cruise's highest-earning films, its worldwide total of just over $400 million was far from enough to justify its massive budget. As such, The Mummy became a one-and-done film, leaving any sequel ideas on the table and bringing an end to Universal's dark universe before it had even really begun. Rain Man is a moving family drama. Box office, $412 million. Rain Man is a 1988 film following Tom Cruise's Charlie Babbitt, the supposed heir to his father's fortune until he discovers his long-lost brother Raymond, Dustin Hoffman, who has savant syndrome. After discovering that Raymond is set to inherit their father's money, Charlie does his best to get legal custody of his brother and thereby possession of his newfound fortune. Against a moderate budget estimated to be around $25 million, Rain Man made over $350 million at the worldwide box office, becoming a phenomenal success. The film went on to win 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and has since become a staple of American cinema. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning brings a satisfying ending to the franchise. Box office, $450 million. Ongoing. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, currently in theaters, draws the iconic action franchise to a close, at least for some time. The film picks up where Dead Reckoning left off, with Ethan Hunt and his team running against time to prevent the Entity, an evil, omnipresent AI, from destroying humanity with multiple nuclear arsenals. The Final Reckoning isn't so much a farewell film as it is the culmination of everything Tom Cruise has accomplished as an action icon, a thrilling tribute to cinema's greatest contemporary risk-taker. The new Mission Impossible, believed to be the last entry, has set a Guinness World Record, but it might not defeat its ultimate quest: making money. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning was originally titled Dead Reckoning Part 2. However, due to the numerous delays in the previous film's production and a bittersweet box office return, concerns about its potential led Paramount to change it to The Final Reckoning, selling a standalone idea. The plan appears to have been successful, as The Final Reckoning is currently among the top 5 highest-grossing movies of 2025. Tom Cruise is devoted to the samurai way in The Last Samurai. Box office, $456 million. Image via Warner Brothers. The Last Samurai follows Tom Cruise's Nathan Algren, a Civil War veteran who has become disillusioned with his country after experiencing the horrors of war. After being sent to Japan as a mercenary, Algren is captured by a village run by samurai. The samurai train him in their ways and eventually accept him as one of their own. Despite the controversies around the film, The Last Samurai has generally been considered to be one of Tom Cruise's best films. Accordingly, the movie is also one of his most successful, earning over $450 million worldwide, an impressive number even unadjusted for inflation. At the time, The Last Samurai was Cruise's highest-grossing project outside of the Mission Impossible movies, helping the actor expand his reach beyond a single franchise. Mission Impossible kicks off a profitable franchise. Box office, $457 million. Tom Cruise's first outing as Ethan Hunt happened almost 30 years ago in 1990 SIX's Mission Impossible. The film is set in the same continuity as the television series of the same name. The movie follows a cast of mostly new characters, several of whom became mainstays in the incredibly successful franchise that followed. Mission Impossible was an unmitigated financial success, earning over $450 million at the worldwide box office despite mixed critical reviews. The film's high gross led to the development of a sequel, leading to one of the most celebrated spy thriller franchises of all time. Although legendary filmmaker Brian De Palma never returned to make another Mission Impossible movie, his legacy is still felt in a succession of movies that challenge the conventional espionage formula. 7. Mission Impossible 2 experiments with a new action formula. Box office, $549 million. 4 years after the original film became a hit, Mission Impossible 2 saw the return of Tom Cruise's IMF agent for yet another high-stakes mission. This time, Ethan Hunt is recruited to locate and defeat a rogue IMF agent, Sean Ambrose, Doug Ray Scott, before he unleashes a deadly virus into the world. Veteran Hong Kong director John Woo takes over behind the camera and gives the film a fresh look. Despite generally worse reviews, Mission Impossible 2 earned almost $100 million more than its predecessor. The sequel's success helped solidify Tom Cruise's place as a bankable action star. This also led to the production of yet another installment of the Mission Impossible franchise, which was quickly proving to be immensely popular. 6. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 faced several production issues. Box office, $565 million. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 follows Ethan Hunt as he and his team work to track down the Entity, a powerful AI, before it falls into the wrong hands. Hunt's mission proves to be his most dangerous yet, and has some surprising ties to his past. This entry grossed $567.5 million at the box office, and while many films would dream of those kinds of numbers, it proved to be a letdown for the franchise. The previous 3 entries all grossed over $680 million, and it did not help that the film's budget was a whopping $219 million. The movie was faced with multiple production setbacks caused by the pandemic, drastically surpassing budget expectations. To make things worse, the decision to release Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 during the summer of 2023 was also hurt by the Barbenheimer cultural phenomenon, with both Barbie and Oppenheimer grossing $1.4 billion and $955 million at the box office, respectively. 5. War of the Worlds is a sci-fi gem. Box office, $606 million. Based on H.G. Wells' seminal novel of the same name, War of the Worlds is a film by director Steven Spielberg following an alien invasion of Earth. Tom Cruise plays a working man who fights to save his family as the world crumbles around them. The film is a mix of family drama with survival horror, with Cruise leading his children to safety across a devastated America. Screenwriter David Koepp opens up about reuniting with Steven Spielberg for the first time in over a decade for his newest sci-fi movie. With the combined power of Spielberg and Cruise, War of the Worlds became a powerhouse at the box office, earning over $600 million worldwide. The film was the highest-grossing entry in Cruise's filmography at the time and remained so for several years thereafter. Despite its unadulterated financial success, War of the Worlds never received any sequels, spin-offs, or reboots. For Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation welcomes Christopher McQuarrie to the franchise. Box office, $688 million. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation kicked off a new era of the franchise as it became more serialized than previous installments. It also introduced a core team and a recurring villain in the Mission Impossible franchise. The film is notable for being the first installment of the franchise to be directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who has since become one of Tom Cruise's most frequent collaborators. Rogue Nation was very successful, with a worldwide box office total of nearly $690 million. Although it didn't earn quite as much as its immediate predecessor, it still brought in an impressive haul. The 5th Mission Impossible movie became a template for all future installments. 3. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol represents a turning point. Box office, $694 million. Image via Paramount Pictures. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol began the evolution from an average action